Alright, so we are going to do manual depth of field, or I like to call it selective focus, using selections and what's called quick mask. So first off, the easiest way is to use your elliptical selection tool, marquee tool, and make a little circle around the general area of what you want to keep in focus. Now, we've selected this inside part, so we want to select the opposite. So you go to select the inverse. That'll select the opposite, everything else. Now down here underneath your foreground and background color, if you click on this when you have a selection going on, it will turn it into what's called a quick mask. It's like a piece of plastic floating above your image that you can edit. Now I like to double click on this, and I prefer to look at the selected areas, not the masked areas. And you can make it whatever color you want, but that's fine. Okay, so that's a little cooler. Now that doesn't look very natural, so we want to blur this. So you do filter, blur, and Gaussian blur is the most common blurring filter. And you don't want to do too much, but enough to make it look a little bit natural. Here we go, before. You can be pretty generous with this if you want. Okay, so that's cool. Next thing, we're going to turn off the quick mask. And then we're going to go back to the blur, filter, blur, same one, Gaussian blur. And that's too much. Now this is where just a little is enough. If you do it too much, it might be too much. But anyway, okay, so that's cool for that. And then always when you're done with a selection, you want to click out of here and get rid of it, or you can right click and deselect that way. But yeah, so we just made our own shallow depth of field manually. All right, here's an alternative way that I think might be a little bit better. Making your own selection manually using the lasso tool, because I kind of want to keep this in focus a little more instead of just round. But you can draw a little selection of your own. Do the same thing, select the inverse, the opposite, turn on the quick mask, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. You can be pretty generous with this one, in my opinion. And turn off the quick mask, and go back to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And that's too much, but you can make your own choice on what you think is just enough. Then again, you can click out here, you can right click and deselect, or if you remember Command D. So there you go, selective focus, shallow depth of field.